Hi, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. So excited you're here because we're going to be going over my November reading wrap up. Sorry if the lighting's weird because I usually use natural lighting, but it's a little bit gloomy. So I'm just working with what I have here. Ended up reading 12 books in November. So yeah, ended up being, a decent month. Just had a lot going on for November, you know. But also apologize. I told you guys last week that I would have 2 videos up this week, one on Tuesday, one on Friday. Tuesday was supposed to be my like Christmas decorating video. That didn't happen because we were possibly going to be moving in the middle of December, like out of nowhere. We were going to be having to move. Long story. It just, the place we're living at, just, it's not working out. But anyhow, we are going to be able to stay here through at least through December, possibly for the next few months at least. Yeah, it's just the place we're staying at. They're not holding up their end of the deal. We're staying at an apartment, and yeah, it's just apartment stuff. But anyhow, so we've decided to at least stay here through the holidays, probably for the next at least 90 days, because they're allowing us to, like, they said that they're fixing the issues. They said that they will fix the issues, and so they're still giving us the option to get out of our lease if we want to, which is nice of them, because I offered them, hey, what if we give 90 days notice and then you let us out of the lease with no repercussions? And so they said that we could. So we have an option, but I was ready to like just leave because I was so irritated. That's why we didn't decorate yet, because we didn't know if we were going to be leaving or whatever, but they have fixed the issues for now and given us the option to still get out of our lease if we want to, you know, because I offered to, like I said, give 90 days notice, and then, you know, that gives them plenty of time to find somebody else to lease, you know, the apartment we're staying in. So anyways, we have some time, that buys us some time to figure it out, and then we can at least stay through, you know, through the holiday season, and we don't have to move right in the middle of the holidays. That's why we didn't get a video out on Tuesday. So that's why. All that to say, I apologize for not getting a video out on Tuesday as promised, but that's why. Let's get to the books. Ended up reading 12 books for November, and we'll get to them. Some of them I'm going to just fly through because you've already seen, I did a cozy reading vlog. I'll link it down below, and I'll let you know which ones were in that one, to where you know, those are the ones I'm just going to fly through. I'm not going to go too far into those. They're in somewhat order from least favorite to most favorite. None of these were bad. I had a good time with all of them, and I could not pick a favorite, so they're in very flimsy order. They're not really in order exactly because it was really hard for me to pick a favorite this time, so they're in somewhat order by rating. Otherwise, they're in no particular order. First one is The Substitute by David McIlroy. This is one that was on my cozy reading vlog, so I'm not going to go too far into that one. It was a 3-star read. It was overall creepy, thought-provoking, really deplorable villain. Slower pace. You have it was broken up into 3 different parts, and it had 3 different points of view. All 3 points of view were different people who had been personally affected by Evie, who is the villain. And yeah, Evie is truly deplorable. She's awful. And by the end of it, you will want to punch her in the face yourself. Like I said, it was a slower pace, so if you like a slower pace horror, this one might be for you. The only thing I struggled with this one, it would have been a higher rating because I loved the concept. I loved the plot. I was very into the plot. The only thing I struggled with was the writing style. I had a really hard time with it. Part 1 followed Lou, and Lou is this teacher, and she's the one who was kind of at the center of it all because Evie kind of took over her life pretty much. She took everything from her because Lou goes into, she gets sick and she's out for a few days from her teaching job. She goes in when she comes back and nobody remembers her. Her friends, her colleagues, nobody remembers anything about her. And Evie is the now substitute. And Evie is like, what are you talking about? I've been here for 6 years. You know, I've been the teacher here. And so Evie eventually takes over everything. She takes everything from Lou. So you follow Lou for a while in this book. And then at a very big part, it completely flips to a new point of view in part 2. And you're in part 2 for a while. And the whole time I was left wondering, what happened to Lou? Where's Lou? Is she okay? What's happening with her? And so that I had a hard time with. I would much rather it had been multiple parts of you throughout the book, you know, the back and forth thing, instead of it completely flipping and you completely be left in the dark for a while. I had a really hard time with that. And then also there would be like times where we would rehash the same things over and over. I don't mind going over the same thing sometimes. It's necessary, but it was so much so, like, it would be multiple times. Like, you know, going over the same thing that had already happened, we'd already been over, but in a different point of view. But it was just done in excess. But that's why it wasn't rated higher, because otherwise I really enjoyed it, loved the plot. It would have been rated higher if it hadn't been for those things. And that one, I don't know if I mentioned it, that one was sent to me by the author. Next we have Lilith by Eric Rickstad. This is another one that was sent to me by the author. This one took me a little bit to read. Like, this was sent to me a while back and I just now got to it. This one, the subject matter may be tough for some people, because this one was something that is very real. And, you know, obviously this is going to have some triggers for some people because it involves a school shooting. So just be advised on that. And this one is, there's a mom, and she's also a school teacher, and her son goes to the same school where she teaches at. And this day, he gets this, he says, icky feeling. He has an icky feeling, and he doesn't want to go to school this day. And he tells her, you know, Mom, I don't feel well. I don't want to go. And he's a young boy. And she says, well, what's wrong? She's basically saying, look, can you tell me why? What is with icky feeling? How do you know, what's wrong? And he can't tell her a valid reason. So being a teacher and everything, she's like, well, you need to go if you're not really sick. But he's basically begging her, don't make me go. I have an icky feeling. So she makes him go anyways. It's a day where once a month they have these drills for active shooter, like these active shooter drills where all the kids prepare for that. And so, you know, there's a lot of commentary on that anyways. But this day there actually is an active shooter. So, and her son is one that is badly injured. And so she has this guilt over it of, why didn't I just listen to him? You know, he had this icky feeling. I should have just listened to him about it. So there's the guilt of it. I didn't mention it. Her name is Elizabeth. Her son's name is Leiden. She herself has so much guilt, but also anger. You know, she's like, something has to be done about this. If nobody else is going to do anything, I'm going to do something. So she decides, she herself commits an act of violence and films it. It says, believing it's her destiny, she sets out to awaken the world to the cowards these men are, and commits her own shocking act of violence. Going by the name Lilith, the first wife of Adam who fled Eden rather than serve a man, she posts a video of her crime that reverberates throughout society. So, of course, you know, it's this whole thing where some people think she's a villain, some people think she's a hero for doing it. It's this whole thing. Yeah, it's the whole, like, is she the monster for doing it? Is she justified in doing this? The whole controversy of it. And is she justified or is she not justified in doing what she did? The whole commentary on gun laws and all of that as well. Of course, it is pretty political. You know, it's in, of course, the female's point of view. The female character was written very well, and very powerful, very strong female character, and it was written by a man. So I was very impressed by that. This is one that I definitely won't be forgetting anytime soon. It's a book that will make you think, it'll make you feel, it'll make you question multiple times, what would you do in this situation? It's definitely one that will make you question, especially if you have kids. It's scary to send your kids to school anyways, but especially when you have to worry about this kind of thing happening. It's raw, it's emotional, it's gut-wrenching. And even though this is a very sensitive topic, I feel like he did so carefully. It's not gory, it's not overly gory. I mean, it's more so done with the feelings of it and how scary it was and how everybody felt in that situation, but it's not overly gory. So I feel like he tackled this topic very well. I ended up giving this 3 stars. There were some things, especially toward the end, that I feel like weren't exactly believable. I don't know that that's how things really would have gone down. I don't think that's how things really would have happened in real life. And also, I feel like it was kind of one-sided. I would like to have heard more of an argument from the other side. No matter where you are on either side of how you feel about gun laws or how you feel about politics or any of that, I still feel like it would have been better to have a little bit of argument from both sides on this, just for the sake of argument, and to have that just to have that little bit of debate going on here, because this was very much just one-sided as far as that goes. However, it was very well written, and I really did enjoy it. And you definitely feel for Elizabeth, and you definitely feel for Leyden, and it was terrifying, especially, like I said, if you have kids going to school. It was gut-wrenching, and it was heartbreaking. But Leyden, he's a really strong kid, a very smart kid, and Elizabeth is a force. And she maybe didn't always think rationally, because she was only thinking like, she was in full mom mode, I guess, and she was only thinking like out of anger. So, I don't know that fighting fire with fire was the best way to handle it, but nonetheless, that's how she handled it. Next up, we have Vindaloo of the Damned by Timothy Lawver. This one was also sent to me by the author a while back, just now getting to it as well. This was fun. I had a really good time with it. This is my second one I've ever read by him. He does a lot of like dark humor within horror. So you get horror, but humor and a lot of sarcasm, and it's really fun. But yeah, I'm going to read you the back because I don't want to give anything away, and also because me explaining it isn't going to do this one justice at all. So I'm going to read it to you. Roland is not having a good day. His contract work is about to run out, and with it, his work visa. The man at the pub won't hardly give him the time of the day. He just wants a hot meal, but those three strange children keep following, staring, saying nothing. To make matters worse, his date from the previous night has just shown up with a crazed look in her eyes. The day only gets worse from there, with shades, motor vehicle accidents, bizarre deaths, hedge witch frat boys, and an apocalyptic beauty cult, and of course, Vindaloo. Read, enjoy, have some Indian takeaway, add on that mango lassie, cause you deserve it. This one I gave 3.5, rounded up to a 4 on Goodreads. So, like I said, this is my second book I've read by this author. I really enjoy his casual writing style because it almost feels like you're being told the story by a friend. Like, just a very casual story, and a really good time. And also a friend who is very sarcastic and kind of a smart ass, if that makes sense. And you guys know I love a touch of humor in horror sometimes. This definitely had that. And like I said, mostly in the form of sarcasm by the main character, Roland. Poor Roland is definitely having the worst time. He spends most of it trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and he spends the rest of it thinking about Vindaloo because he's starving. You would have to read it to find out why he's starving, what's going on with that, because there's a reason for it. I thought Roland's character was really well developed. This is a pretty short, it's a pretty quick read, not too long, but Roland's character was really well developed within the story. Even though the plot was a lot of fun, it was an adventure, I feel like this one was more about Roland and his journey. I really felt for him. His whole life, he's had a hard time fitting in. He's had a hard time finding his place, and he's always felt kind of isolated. You really feel that throughout the story as he's trying to make sense of everything. He's been living in England from America, and the whole time he's always trying to correct himself and correct the proper way to say things in England. For example, he'll correct himself. Flat. They say flat here instead of apartment. It's just one of the many ways that shows how out of place he is, even in adult life. Not just there, but just in general. It was unpredictable, kept me turning the pages. There were some gross moments, and yeah, just it was hilarious. And I loved the snarky main character. Had fun with it. Next up, I read Nana by Mark Towse. This one was also sent to me by the author digitally. Put the picture of it here. Yeah, this one. This is my second one I've read by this author. The first one was like a superhero comedy. That one was hilarious. I had a good time with it. This one I ended up giving 4 stars to. Let me read you a little bit what it's about. Meet Ollie's Nana, Ivy. It takes more than clean dentures, brandy, and bingo night to keep this one happy. Nana Ivy lives in New Haven Crescent, where most of the other residents are past their expiry date and all kinds of batshit crazy, the kind of place where you hang your sanity up at the door. Being the matriarchal type, Ivy cares for the other residents as though they were kin. So of course, it's of enormous concern when their veins begin to blacken and they start shedding skin, not to mention the glistening things crawling out of their hair. They're pushing their luck, and Nana Ivy knows it. Did I mention she has a dark secret? Young Ollie doesn't know what to make of it when he comes to visit, but he's about to find out there's more to his Nana than cough drops and slippers. Oh yes, he's in for a long night. Yeah. I went into this knowing absolutely nothing except for what was in the synopsis, and I would suggest you do the same. And maybe don't have a snack. Maybe don't have a snack when you go into this either, because it's absolutely disgusting. It's really gross. You know when you're a kid and old people seem really gross to you? This book takes that and amplifies it. That's the best way I could put it. But yeah, no way I could have guessed where this was going. There's just no way I could have put any of this together. It was wild, it was gross, it was disturbing. Like I said, definitely don't have a snack when you read it, because I don't think you'll be able to eat it. Or at least I couldn't. It's full of weird and quirky characters who all have their own personalities, and it was amazing that in 120 pages they all had their space to shine within that. And I'm really glad they did. Also, I think Mark Towse has ruined cherry pie for me forever. But I absolutely love his playful writing style. I have an absolute blast with anything that I've read by him. I would say it's equal parts humorous, disgusting, and creepy. Which, what a combination, right? I'd recommend this to anybody who loves comedy horror. And I didn't know geriatric horror was a thing, but apparently it is. And so I'm definitely going to be looking for more books in this genre, but it was really a lot of fun. And it was interesting to see elderly people as the villain for once. I really loved that they were, it kind of flipped it around and made them not this frail, weak, defenseless ones, that a lot of horror books portray them to be. I really loved that take on it, and I really had a good time with it. And I read the prequel, Poison Ivy by Mark Towse. He also sent me that one as well. I also gave it 4 stars. Somehow I ended up enjoying this one even more than Nana. You get the backstory of Nana, and you also get the backstory of one of the other main characters, Clementine. And of course you have a lot of the other original characters, which I'm really glad, because it wouldn't have been the same without all of their antics. Love the dark humor. This book was hilariously disgusting. Somehow even more repulsive than the first one. There were plenty of gross moments and wild elderly sex scenes. This book was already fun with Poison Ivy, but then there were some short stories at the end of it. A lot of them were, the themed around elderly main characters, but then there were a couple other subgenres thrown into, and also they were also the blend of horror and humor as well. And then they were also nice and twisted. It was a really good time. They were both just a lot of fun. If you like gross, disturbing comedy horror, I would definitely try either one of those. Next, I read Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This one I also mentioned in my cozy reading vlog, so it's linked down below. This one, Finlay Donovan is a single mom. She's going through a divorce as well. Got a lot going on. She's a writer, and she is in breach of her contract. She is at a Panera Bread. She's overheard by someone talking about her book plot idea. And this lady overhears thinking that she is a contract killer for hire. So she's offered a huge amount of money to off this lady's husband, and she inadvertently accepts the offer. So she gets herself in these crazy situations, and if she's not getting herself in these situations, then her babysitter is, Vera. Hilarious, absolutely a lot of fun. Didn't have to think too hard about it. It's just a really good time. Really quick read. Love even the side characters, and she and Vera make an excellent duo. They are, what one doesn't think of, the other one does. And she's very, I feel like, impulsive. She doesn't really think things through. She just makes a decision right then and just goes with it and gets herself in all these messes. hilarious, very funny. It leads right up, like the way it ends, you definitely want to have part 2 available, which I don't have yet, but it just like leaves it perfectly to where it leads right into part 2. So yeah, definitely you want to have part 2 immediately. So but yeah, this is just a really good time. I gave this one 4 stars. Then I read The Night Parade by Ronald Malfi. Picture here. I read this one for Fright Club, which is book club hosted by Cliff with Cliff's Dark Gems and Christine over at Secrets Read. This one I ended up giving 4 stars, a high 4-star, but 4 stars. This one had me like transfixed. I could not put it down. I really enjoyed it. I will read you the description. It says, first the birds disappeared, then the insects took over, then the madness began. They call it wanderer's folly, a disease of delusions, of daydreams and nightmares, a plague threatening to wipe out the human race. After 2 years of creeping decay, David Arlen woke up one morning thinking that the worst was over. By midnight, he's bleeding and terrified. His wife is dead, and he's on the run in a stolen car with his 8-year-old daughter, who may be the key to a cure. Ellie is a special girl, deep, insightful, and she knows David is lying to her. Lying about her mother, lying about what they're running from, and lying about what he sees when he takes his eyes off the road. This was so good. It was so immersive. This was my first Ronald Malfi, but to me, I read Dan Simmons for the first time. Over the summer, I read Summer of Night, and to me, their writing style is very similar. With the like world building, with the scene setting, with the character development, they both are just so immersive. And yeah, this I was so into the characters, the dynamic between the father and daughter, so good, so heartbreaking. Also, definitely not what I thought it was gonna be. Like this was. I don't know what I was exactly expecting, but this was like way better than I was even expecting it to be. Because this was very much more about, like what, to me, this was more about like the dad, like the lengths he would go to and like the relationship between the two of them and all of that. And yeah, I mean, there's this whole disease happening and like how the world's reacting to it and all that as well. But I think it was more about the father-daughter relationship and like the lengths he's going to and all of that, more so than what I thought it was going to be about. Definitely terrifying because like some of the things I feel like were realistic and you feel like could happen. But yeah, it was terrifying on more than one level. There were several like really creepy moments. Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but there were several really creepy moments. And yeah, this book was terrifying on more than one level. There were times I would question the dad and like question like what he was doing and why he was doing it, and like you question his morals and you question like what you would do in that situation. I love books that question like morals and like what you would do in that situation, and it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, okay, what would I do in that situation? Because it's such a gray area. And yeah, I love books that make you think like that, and this one definitely did. It felt so real, and it put me right there. It put me right into the book, and I was completely transported into that world. And yeah, it was so good. It was really good. Really glad this is the one that was picked, and I'm really glad that I was introduced to Ronald Malfi. I'll definitely be reading more, and I'm not going to say too much more because I don't want to give anything away. It was very layered, and yeah, there's just a lot to unpack, and I won't give anything away because I don't want to give spoilers. I'll wait till the live show when Cliff and Christine had the live show to talk more about it. Next, I read Horns by Joe Hill. After a drunken night, on the anniversary of his girlfriend's death, she was brutally murdered. On the anniversary of her death, Ig wakes up to find that he has horns growing out of his head. So, he was the prime suspect in her death, and everybody thinks he did it. Like, everybody. He was the prime suspect, but he was never actually found guilty or whatever. On top of having horns growing out of his head, he now has this new power. And with his power, he's gonna find out who actually killed his girlfriend. So that's all I'll say about that. Now, this book was very dark. It was very dark. It was gritty. It was edgy. It was full of vengeance and rage, and none of the characters were particularly likable. I really felt for Egg. I really felt for his situation. I can't imagine being in his situation and dealing with what he had to deal with, because this new power takes him through a lot of things. He has to relive a lot of things, and he has to know things that I just can't imagine. And the fact that everybody thinks he did it, and he has to know what people think about him, and he has to deal with what people think about him, and he handles it probably better than I would have, honestly. But yeah, this book is just full of rage and vengeance, and it is very edgy. I really liked it. I have a lot to say, but I don't really want to give anything away. I do have a lot to say about it though, but I can't really say anything without giving anything away. There was a lot of symbolism in here. I noticed a lot of religious symbolism, and that's all I'll really say about that. But he's going through like a bit of a transformation, and he's going through this whole journey. It's a rough one. He already lost the love of his life really horrifically, and it's like he's losing her all over again. He's going through this transformation, and he's yeah, it's rough. And he's, you know, like, of course, like I said, everybody thinks he did it, and everybody does not think highly of him at all. You know, it's rough. So, but yeah, I really felt for him the whole time. This is really, I feel like it was really well written. A little bit slower pace at times. Like, yeah, it was slow at parts, but I still really enjoyed it. I gave it a high 4 stars. And this was my first Joe Hill book, and I'm reading another Joe Hill book now, and yeah, I really enjoyed his writing style. It's really good. But I have a lot more to say. I just can't say anymore because I don't want to give anything away, but I really enjoyed it. The rest of these are 5 stars. I reread Little Women. This one is always going to be a 5-star for me. It's just, you know the story. My daughter was reading an elementary edition of Little Women, so of course it's like more condensed. It condenses it for her age group to where they get the story, but it's like smaller. So I told her that I would read my edition of it again. But you know, it's so wholesome. It's full of life lessons, and it's cozy. It's great for this time of year. Really enjoyed it. It always feels like a warm hug, and yeah, I love this story. Another reread, one of my all-time favorites, always going to be a favorite, and that was The Hobbit. This one I read with my son. He did not make it through it because school situation changed, but he was really enjoying it. He will be finishing it though. He didn't finish it yet. He really loved it though. He likes books that are an adventure, so that's why I recommended this one to him. And yeah, this is always gonna be a favorite. I hadn't read it since I was in grade school. Freaking love it. You know the story, of course. But yeah, it just always feels like an adventure. It always feels like I'm going on an adventure. It takes me completely out of wherever I'm at. It takes me out of my head. I don't think about anything else when I'm reading it. Love all the quirky characters. I love it so much. It's so fun. Anything that's full of treasure and dragons and this whole just journey, I'm all for it. Next, I read Quicksilver by Hart. This one I read for my TikTok book club. It was featured also in my cozy reading vlog. Yeah, this one everybody in my book club loved. I wasn't the one that picked it. Somebody else had picked it. I think it was my first romantasy. As far as I know, it was my first romantasy. I don't think I've ever read anything like this. Actually, I know I haven't read anything like this. Somebody compared it to ACOTAR. I have no idea. I've never read ACOTAR. I won't go into like the whole synopsis because it is very long. I'll let you guys look that up if you're interested. But yeah, it was a whole thing. World building was next level. It was so wild. I can't imagine, like, I don't know how fantasy authors do it, like envision these whole worlds, and it was like worlds within worlds. because there were like multiple different worlds that had to be dreamed up. And yeah, it was wild. Of course, there's a romance in there. Kingfisher is Fae, Cerys is human, and they start off enemies. They hate each other. And he is very snarky. He has this whole like attitude. So there's a lot of snark. And she'll like just fire back at him. And I love that she is not damsel in distress. I cannot stand that damsel in distress trope. It like irritates me. But I love that she's not. She doesn't need saving. She's very strong. She grew up in this this place that the queen was basically starving. She would ration their food and water. And so Cerys had to steal and pickpocket in order to, you know, get extra food or extra water or whatever to survive. So she's not a damsel in distress. She doesn't need saving. She doesn't need help. And I loved that about her. I love that she was a strong female lead. The dynamic between her and Kingfisher, loved that. There was some spice. Took a little bit to get to the spice. It was like a slower burn as far as the spice level goes, as far as spice goes. This was a chunkier book. It was like 600 pages on Kindle. But yeah, I was really into it. Took a little bit, like the first like 25% was very much the world building. Took a little bit to like explain what was going on, you know, how the magic and everything worked, the world and all that. So, but once we got into that, the 25% mark, I was really into it. And yeah, it was, even though it was 600 pages, it was a fairly quick read because I was really into it. I was really into the characters. There were plenty of twists. There was, I enjoyed the magic. I don't have anything to compare it to because this is my first romantasy, so I have no idea as far as how to compare it to anything, but I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it. I loved the characters. I loved the magic element. Like I said, loved the world. It was very wintry too, so this is a great time of year I feel like to read it because it was very wintry. And this is going to be a series, so there will be more. So yeah, really good. Then I read You've Lost a Lot of Blood by LaRocca. Yeah, this was also in my cozy reading vlog. This was freaking weird. This is one that like, I really didn't know how to explain it. It was just really weird. I really explained it better in that vlog, so if you want to look that up. The back just says, each precious thing I show you in this book is a holy relic from the night we both perished. The night when I combed you from my hair and watered the moon with your blood. You've lost a lot of blood. I think you should go into it knowing nothing. It's pretty short. It's a very quick read. I read this in one sitting because I couldn't put it down. It was just so odd. It's like probably the most bizarre thing I've ever read. And I read a lot of bizarre things. Definitely had LGBTQ rep. It was just a really abstract, really weird read. Very unsettling. It was bizarre. It was an absolute mindfuck. I was mesmerized. I was like mesmerized from the very beginning of it. It was just, the way it was written was really interesting. It was poetic. I love it. I absolutely love the writing style. I'll definitely be reading more from this author because, yeah, I was really into it. Like, I'm really surprised the rating isn't higher out there. But yeah, I really loved it. Just a really weird, chilling, brilliant masterpiece of a book. I really had fun with it. That was it. Those were all the books. I don't know if I explained them well this time. I explained them the best I could. My brain's a little frazzled. I've had a weird week. Next week, I don't know if it's going to be one video or two. You're for sure getting my week 1 Hellathon wrap up. And I don't know if I'm going to have like a separate video for my my Christmas decorating or not. It just depends on how long, you know, that week 1 wrap up takes, to where if I want to put them together or separate. So that's what it's going to depend on. I don't know. We'll see. But I can for sure decorate now. Week 1 is going to have books. So it's going to have reading. It's going to have books. It's going to have, I'm going to a lighting, like a first lighting thing. It's at a park. They light up the whole park. So you go and there's a band playing Christmas music. They have food trucks, hot chocolate, and then they light the park for the first time, and you can go through and walk with your hot chocolate and just view the lights. Going to that. There's movies. I'll talk about the movies that I've been watching. Paint by number. And then possibly on the same video or a separate one, I will have Christmas decorating, cookies, all that stuff. So Should be fun. But that's all next week, either in one video or two. We'll see. It's going to be a surprise. We'll see what happens. I will see you next week. Bye for now.